Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we're doing a non-scripted review and analysis of Season 1, Episode 3 of Pluribus. Now the episode starts with our main protagonist Carol seemingly on a vacation with her lover Helen. And this hotel or resort that they're staying at is uniquely themed, as the facility is entirely encased in ice. The floor is made out of ice, snow, the walls are made out of ice and snow, the bed frame is made out of ice and snow, or whatever the heck. So it's just like some sort of gimmicky hotel that's honestly well crafted, and I can only imagine costs a lot of money to make and maintain. But I digress. What's most important is the clock that's imperative to the film's story is listed as the date 2,617 days, 10 hours, 30 minutes, and some odd seconds. Now what's interesting is that at the beginning of the show, the episodes 1 and 2, the timer starts at 0. So this only implies that this is a future date, which doesn't make sense since in the first episode or two we find that the hive mind controls everyone, and including the gentleman who's on the tour guide for this hotel, as well as her lover Helen. So what this time clock actually represents is unknown. Whether it's a future date or a past date is unknown at this time. Now another interesting though obvious thing to notice here is that Carol is such a downer. Nothing impresses her, nothing makes her happy. She's like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. On the other hand, Helen is the complete opposite. She's the antithesis of Carol, in which she's easily amused, she's happy with the hotel, she's very happy with everything that's going on, she's amazed, she takes the time to smell the roses, while Carol, she's very upset and negative. Almost every positive thing she lists, she then goes ahead and mentions a negative thing about it, which is honestly makes her a very unsufferable and unlikable character. Now those traits made sense when we were aware that she was one of the few surviving humans after this hive mind invasion, which is like understandable. You would be upset, you'd be angry, you'd figure this out. But what we're seeing now, what's being depicted, is her in a nice hotel being guided by a very nice, knowledgeable tour guide in a very uniquely themed, well-made, crafted, likely very expensive hotel. You know, and she's over here bitching and moaning. She really is not happy with this, and of course, I said earlier, that makes her a very unlikable character. Now, another thing to notice, and this is a societal, psychological observation that I'm making. I am in no way a certified or professional in the field of psychology, but as a YouTuber, I'm obligated to give my opinion regardless of my education status. What I notice is that Carol's character, she is a very wealthy novelist, a romance novelist, and so she has a lot of money. And when you give a woman a lot of money, the chances of her becoming a lesbian or being attracted to the same sex increases dramatically, considering money is the main driving force of providing for another, and a man's role in his life is to provide for a woman. But if a woman has everything provided for her, she has no need for a man and thus can look elsewhere and likely wants to use her ability and resources to provide for someone else. Now, who is more willing and wanting to accept provisions? Another female, another woman. So if you give a woman a bunch of money, she is likely to maintain her heterosexuality. She likely will still be attracted to the opposite sex, but there's also a dramatic rise in probability that she will be attracted to females as well. On the other hand, for men, if you were to give men a bunch of money, they usually have sex with a lot of hookers, they go out with a lot more women, and the chances of them becoming homosexual rise just a little bit, though it's still there. That's just an observation I made. I know it's totally off base of what we're talking about here, like a review for a show, but that's something I'm too intelligent not to make that observation and give that to you guys, so we'll go ahead and I digress. Now, even though we don't know exactly this is a future or past date, we go ahead and move on to the next scene, in which she is returning home on an air jet, and she's interested finally in talking to the remaining survivors who do not speak English, because she's spoken to the ones who do speak English, and they're not really helpful in any capacity, so she has to branch out. She was hesitant to use them at first, or at least communicate with them at first, considering she does not trust the hive mind, and so she does not trust their translations of whatever the person may or may not be saying, and so she's desperate. So this is her being desperate. She goes through a list of other people who are non-English speakers who are survivors, and this scene was done very well because in their description via the hive mind's retelling, they're described in a way that lets you know they're human. They had a personality. They were a person before this. Like, some person was a gymnast, someone was a contortionist, some person was a fisherman, some people were retired, some people had dreams, hobbies, ambitions, and now they're just stuck alone on this world, not knowing about any other person or anything like that. And it's just really sad, but it was very well done, very good stuff. After the list, she finds one person who is within her age range, within her understanding. She speaks a little bit of Spanish, so she's able to communicate with this person. It doesn't seem that there's any meaningful communication that takes place between them, except the fact that he had hung up on her very rudely. She calls him back and swears at him in Spanish, and then hangs up abruptly. Now you might be thinking, oh, what's the importance of that? Well, you have to understand that the hive mind is very kind to the non-infected, considering they need them to be as calm and happy as possible until they're assimilated. So they're doing nothing but saying nice things, please, thank you, this and that. So for this other gentleman, who I believe is Portuguese, to have the phone answered in such a nasty way by Carol would lead him to believe, oh wait, this was not a hive mind, this is somebody who's not infected just like me, which would likely pique his curiosity to reach out to her even though he was very mean to begin with. So hopefully we see more of that in the next episode. Now the next major scene is very emotionally impactful for Carol, considering she arrives home and the hive mind, the pirate lady, who are like her associate or whatever, she delivers her a parcel of packages that were backed up during the aligning, I guess you can call it that, the great joining. And so she takes the package, she goes home, she's trying to relax, she's going through the mail, and she sees that the package was from her lover, Helen, and when she opens it, it's a massager that she tried out in like a hotel or airport at one place. She said she was going to buy it, but it was too expensive, but her Helen decided to buy it anyways. And now that she has it, she realizes how much she took her for granted, how much she was so negative. She bought it for her as a gift that ended the tour, and so it was a very sweet moment. It really showed how much of a caring person she was, and this greatly saddens Carol, but at the same time greatly angers her, considering these memories only provoke pain to how much she regrets treating her lover or life in general. And so she calls the hive mind and tells them that she's off limits. Helen is off limits. You can no longer talk to her, message me anything about her, communicate anything about her. So the only thing the hive mind has to work with is third-party observations on Carol's life. And so that was pretty impactful for me. It was pretty good. Not too bad. Now, a brief observation is that she's watching television, which honestly has to be somewhat sort of a gentle reprieve, considering all the people that she's watching in these television shows. I think she's watching like the Gilmore Girls or something. Those people are not brainwashed. They're acting like normal people. So it definitely gives you a little bit of relief to see other people, at least even if it's through a TV show, that they're acting normal, not like, unison robots. And so that's very interesting. The next major scene is simply Carol wanting to provide for herself and be independent of the hive mind, and so she goes to the grocery store to purchase groceries in order for her to cook and make food for herself, only to find that the grocery store is completely emptied since the hive mind collected all resources of humanity and put them in one single area for greater distribution or storage or whatever the heck they need for efficiency's sake. She says she doesn't like that, and she demands that they put everything back, and what ensues is just a nice montage of them all working in unison to deliver all the goods as quick as possible. This only low-key angers Carol, since she sees like this is like, I don't want to have to ask them for everything in my life, because she hates communicating with them in the same way that Portuguese man, that Portugal guy, he doesn't like to as well. So it's just upsetting that she has to ask them for help with everything because they took over everything, and so she's asking for permission. This further highlights her independence and her anger towards this all happening, which I gotta say is pretty done well. The montage is nice, everyone's working in unison, very good choreography, very, very good stuff. The next major scene is another communication she has with the hive mind, in which she sarcastically requests a grenade. Not thinking they would actually give her one, they do show up a few hours later and provide her with said requested grenade. It seems the hive mind, even though they have all collective human knowledge, for whatever reason don't know whether or not someone's being sarcastic or not. They could have all linguistic studies, anthropology, television shows, and the such, yet they don't know when someone's being sarcastic. I found that a little odd, but of course it's just to move the plot forward. They then ahead provide her with a grenade, in which she mistakenly believes it's not a grenade, it's not a real one, so she accidentally activates the grenade, and the hive mind associate, the pirate lady, she grabs it, throws it out the window before it explodes, and it does. This leads us to believe that Carol has access to anything she wants, even dangerous things. Now this was known prior, at least hinted so, at least in the first 2 episodes, in which she can request anything in the world she wants. If she wants the highest quality, most rare filet mignon flown over to her, she could easily have that flown over to her in about an hour, because the hive mind has access to all human knowledge, intelligence, and distribution and everything. They have access to private jets, all of that stuff. So it's really weird that even though this is happening now, this has been known for the past 2 episodes that she could request anything. I guess it's just more of an enlightenment that she now realizes she can request weapons or weaponry, which is interesting for her. She then later on in the episode requests for a nuclear bomb. They are hesitant to provide it for her, but then genuinely ask, would she want one anyways? She then says she has to get back to them on that. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the episode. Very lackluster and compared to the first 2 episodes, which is not too much of a fault. Just because I say it's lackluster doesn't mean it's bad. It's just good. It was an okay watch. I didn't really like it. One thing to note about the show is that it's very slow pace. I can imagine making a show like this only costs an okay amount of money, but nothing intense, because you don't really need background characters. It's mainly just Carol just navigating this hive mind world by herself, where everyone's pretty much gone or doing something else. And so because of that, this is a very slow burn of a show. I know with Breaking Bad, like in other shows, like especially Better Call Saul, oh my goodness, my biggest gripe with Better Call Saul, the first 2 seasons are like unwatchable. Like it's so slow. And I know I'm part of like the minority/majority because I've seen a lot of people give the same sentiment. I, for one, when I was watching Better Call Saul, it took me over a year to watch because I would just stop. Like I'd watch season 1, didn't like it. Watch season 2, didn't like it. Everyone said it's amazing a year later, so I ended up picking it up again, and boy, were they right. So I can only imagine, I'm just taking it with a grain of salt, that even though these first few episodes are rather slow, somewhat entertaining, a slow pull, slow burn, it's still going to be good. I have optimistic hopes for the show being good. However, this episode, I should say at least, was very slow. Another thing to note, the intro to the show, very crappy, very shitty, man. Not interesting or in any way. Nothing nowhere near as captivating as Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad. I bet like creators are probably annoyed that like they're always being compared to those 2 shows because those 2 shows were so great. It should be an honor, not an annoyance. So where do we go from here in terms of the story? I'm not entirely sure. We might see just more of Carol or more of her backstory unraveling to kind of show how much of a, damaged character she is and see how much more complex she can be and what she likely is. However, it's alluded to that we'll see this Portugal character, this Portuguese guy, so hopefully we can see some of that. We'll see things from his perspective, from a different part of the world. Maybe that's interesting. Other than that, just a decent episode. I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you for 100 subscribers. That's so awesome. I'm definitely going to keep these videos coming out, not just about Pluribus, even though that's the flavor of the month now. I'm just going to make some more videos whenever I can about anything I want. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Really, I appreciate all of you. You guys are the best, dude. Thank you so much. Like the video if you did. Subscribe for more content and comment on whatever you think. Like, do you agree about anything? Do you agree if the title sequence sucks? Do you agree if this was a really boring episode or not? Do you agree that Carol is really a downer even when, prior to and during the invasion? She's kind of a downer. She's kind of unlikable. Even in like a general sense almost. It's kind of getting annoying. Hopefully they make her more likable. Hopefully she takes on more of an action role. Other than that, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.